Hi there, I'm Jonathan Kirkwood, and I'll be presenting on how libraries and librarians use Tumblr. I say libraries and librarians because I noted distinctions during my research of how libraries use Tumblr compared to how librarians do on their personal time. So I will be examining a number of blogs created by libraries and librarians. Additionally, I will speculate on how both might exploit Tumblr in the future. The library blogs I examined avoided hot-button issues such as politics entirely from as far as I could tell. They instead focused on presenting their resources and services available to whatever stakeholder groups they typically serve. These could be the general public, college students and faculty, and whatever other stakeholder group is served. Advocacy for libraries is limited to events that most libraries can share in. The Hennepin County Library, Special Collections and Digital Archives focuses heavily on making connections with local researchers as evidenced from the many and the amount of text accompanying them. Every couple days or so, it seems. This is an example of where it's made more accessible and inclusive, and even help potential researchers gain an idea of what the special collections of this repository hold for them to make use of. The Special Collections and University Archives of the University of Iowa pursues a similar path by giving whomever views its blog an idea of its holding. This one was named New and Notable by Tumblr in 2013. The focus is geared more toward images than text of books from the late medieval and early modern periods. There is less text, meaning that the images text must be likened to placards at museums. Paul Robeson Library at Rutgers has an entirely different approach. Here's an example of a library focusing on services offered largely for reference services, it seems. The Robeson Library urges visitors to ask questions on its Tumblr blog. Additionally, the library is focused on giving short histories about student life on campus, an example of how this library attempts to serve a specific stakeholder group. The Lawrence Public Library is large enough that it must reach out to many stakeholder groups, but I found an interesting post where the library assembled and presented a number of titles from its collection in support of a young woman artist show back in 2014. This serves as an example where a library can advocate in favor of and in its jurisdiction. Librarians using Tumblr on their personal time, controversial Tumblr, assume the veil of anonymity with a screen name. They are free to share whimsical events encountered on the job, allow visitors to see that librarians do have personality, and even offer critical analysis of the library field. When a librarian shares whimsical stories submitted by various librarians from across the profession, this could be from academic librarians, like for the post from November 4th. It could be from public librarians, as the last few posts show here. Stories must be no more than a sentence or two long. Some are funny, and others seem to bemoan issues that librarians occasionally face. I will point you toward November 3rd. And I work at a public library. I do not, but this is the title of the Tumblr blog. Follows a similar path, though with much more positivity, I would say. There are a number of pictures showing events at different libraries. We have another funny story about someone asking for divorce papers. Now, how is completely different from the previous two. Of a Tumblr blog that critically examines part of the library, only the academic field. This one is linked with hiringlibrarians.com, and visitors will see job openings posted here. But there's more to it than that. Commentary and interviews concerning the state of the academic library world are regularly given, as well as advice on how to apply for a job and other tips for making oneself presentable. Lulu, the librarian, serves as an example of a librarian who focuses more on her personal interests outside of the library. Very little is mentioned about her work as a public librarian. My life in the public library, on the other hand, is much the opposite. Here we have a librarian from a suburban library in Chicago who shares the activities of her job and other things that are loosely connected. Now, this particular post, as a point of interest, this one was shown on the Tumblr blog for the special collections at the University of Iowa a few days ago, and it helps to show how easily that librarians can connect with one another through Tumblr. Now, as for how librarians will use Tumblr in the future, well, that's a tricky thing. Speculation always is. It's obvious that both librarians and libraries will continue to maintain a strong presence on Tumblr, yet I'm having a hard time seeing how the latter will grow. I find myself answering more reference questions online and must ponder if reference services will make use of social media on websites other than that of any library they serve. This might allow for greater outreach, but also complicate the ability of libraries to deliver services. More services always means more responsibilities.